Hey everyone, welcome to Business Aspirin. I'm your host, Clint Junell, and on today with us we have Darrin Fleming, and Darren is with 1M Restoration and Repair out of Oceanside, California. Darren, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, buddy. How are you guys doing?
Doing really well. So let's talk about Oceanside, California. What's the best part of Oceanside right now, Darren?
It's California, so it's really, it's great to live here. But right now we got overcast skies. It should be sunny, and the best part about living here. I've lived here all my life, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint one thing. I'm actually from Carlsbad on the beach, but now I'm moved a little bit inland, and we house our office right here in Oceanside, California, and I think the weather's the best. The weather's the best when it's better.
When it's not what it is today. But normally you have, by and large, 98% of your time is great weather out there, right?
It is. It is. I can't complain. That's why we pay so much money.
Yeah, you have year-round spectacular weather,
Yes.
by and large. So that's super great. Like you didn't have, in 21, we had what they called Snowmageddon here in Texas, where everything froze and everybody's world kind of ceased to exist for a little bit because of that. So I envy the weather that you have, my friend. I envy the weather.
It is. It's definitely a plus. It is definitely a plus.
So what is the outside hobby? Like, what's the thing that you like to enjoy in the weather?
Well, I play a lot of disc golf, and I play a lot of regular golf. So here it's, we're not playing in snow and ice, and so it's great. We can play here all year round. So
Yeah, for sure.
it's actually pretty neat. We do a little traveling with that and get to different places and play. But yeah, I think for me, it's mostly disc golf and regular golf.
Yeah. Nice. Well, excellent. Well, let's talk a little bit about Darren. Let's talk about your history, just career-wise and growing up into who Darren became. And let's kind of tell that story so everybody that listens kind of knows who you are. And let's kind of dig in.
Yeah, so it all started for me about 30 plus years ago. 30 plus years ago, I entered into the restoration industry. I was actually going to go into law enforcement, and I was working as a shipping and receiving clerk, and I had a box dropped on my back. And so the police department dropped me from the roster, and from the hopeful roster. And I answered an ad that said emergency services. And that's pretty much how it started. And I've been doing it as long as we used to get calls from the fire department and run through the red lights with the fire department. I've been doing it a long time, I'll put it that way. So I've got to see a lot of changes in the industry. And it's just something that is, I think you can vouch for this. Once you're in it, it's hard to go away from it. This is my third venture in owning a business in the restoration field. It is a rough one. They said, everybody says, own a restoration company, it'll be fun. They said, that it is a feat, but I'll tell you what, I wouldn't change it for the world, what we do here at 1M.
Sure. So initially you saw something that said, hey, emergency services. In your head, you were trying to get into first responder type work to begin with. This seemed like a good fit to, match with what your career path in your head looked like. So where did you start out at?
So I started out answering the ad. Emergency services was a carpet installer, and that's what I was doing at the time, along with the ins and outs of being young. And I answered it, and I laid carpet for 3 weeks, and the company was so busy that they stuck me into mitigation. And that's where it started. I started off as a carpet installer for the rebuild, and 3 weeks later, here I am, going and seeing what they do with the flood restoration. And then I got the emergency service side of it. And I was hooked since then.
Okay. That's excellent. So then at some point you transitioned from being a technician to what was the next step for you?
I went as a technician, and then I went in as the ops manager, obviously, for several different restoration companies.
Okay.
With this industry, it's kind of hit or miss. There's companies that pop up, they're doing great, and then they're not doing so great. We ride the wave as restoration contractors. We ride the wave day in and day out. And that's really it. I found my niche in, going back to the beginning, let me put it this way. I think the reason why we all do this is because we all want to help people. It's kind of like the mindset of going into law enforcement, first responder, is you do it because you want to help people.
Absolutely.
And I think you and I and everybody here has probably seen people at their best and seen people at their worst. You're going into a house that is probably the biggest investment of their life, and it has now just been either ravaged with water, fire, mold, and it's kind of the end of the world. So you are the hero per se. Use that lightly. You are the hero of the moment. I'll put it that way, because you're coming in, you're helping people, and that's what addicted me to this industry.
Sure. And you never meet anyone on a good day, right? Every client you get
Don't.
had a bad day, and to be that breed of individual that can come in and assist during that time is something that, I mean, it takes a special touch, right? Even at the technician level, it takes a special mentality and desire to help. And I know on our end, one of our key phrases is "we like helping." That's one of our core values, is we like helping, and that manifests itself in different ways. That could be pulling over to help somebody change a flat tire on the side of the road that's not going to do anything for you as a company, not going to earn you any revenue, maybe make a little bit of goodwill in the process. But the mentality of our teams has to be such that we want to go in and assist during this event where the structure fire came in and everything's melted and the ceiling fan has slung plastic around the room and everybody's just in a panic and have no idea that this is ever going to be able to be inhabited again. Right. And you got to step in the right direction. Talk about now you've moved into owning your own. So let's talk about that story.
It was a long time coming. I'm actually in partners with my son. So he holds our B license. He holds our general contractor's license. So he handles the repair side of the business. I handle the restoration side of the business. But going back and touching on what you were talking about, the team is what makes everything. If you don't have the right people, I mean, everything starts from your phone call. That's where it has to start. We make sure that even the people who answer in the front desk are knowledgeable in water damage, in fire restoration. They can answer questions just as I can, maybe not as in depth, but it all starts right there. So the team we have here is probably the best team. And I say this, it's the best team that I've ever worked with. And I've worked with some very large teams. Right now we're at 9 people, and it's all the most important person is probably that front desk. It works all the way through. Everybody here is emergency minded, and empathetic, very empathetic. It has to be that way. But going back to owning a business is in the restoration industry is, every technician think they can own their business, and it's very simple to own their own business. And then once it happens, you're like, wow, it is definitely an uphill battle all day, every day. From the clients, one week you'll have some of the greatest clients you've ever had. The next week you've got some less favorable clients. Either way, they're all treated.
We say that.
They're all treated the same, regardless. Owning your own business can be very, very stressful. If you jump into this and you think you're just going to make money, it's not going to happen. We're going into our 3rd year. We have a business plan here where everything here goes back to the company for the first 5 years. So it's going to be a struggle for the first 5 years. But because of that, we sleep and I don't have to worry about payroll. I don't have to worry about bills. I don't have to worry about buying trucks. And it's finding your niche. It's finding your niche and not forgetting where you came from. That is the biggest point here. Never forget where you came from.
Sure. And I think that's significant, right? And like some of the things that you mentioned is having the good team in place, and like we get phone calls occasionally where and you guys get these too, and it's hard at times to understand exactly what's taking place on a project because you have somebody that's panicked and losing their mind, and you get on site and it's a small little water loss, but they don't understand. And you can have, like, we've had some little old ladies who are like, well, honey, if you can come out here and help us, we got a little bit of water, and it's 1.5 feet deep when you get there, and you're like, okay, like there's some urgency here that might have been a little differently if you just said, hey, everything is floating in my house. But again, that goes back to the front desk, right? It goes back to having a staff that's capable and training that staff and and getting, everybody, like what we try to say is we want the right people on the right seats on the bus, because that makes it significant that we're all moving the same direction to accomplish what our goal is. And I think there are ways and processes that kind of create that method, right? So you guys, in terms of running your business and growing your business and hiring and all those things, are there some processes that you've put in place to help you ensure, as best as possible, you and I both know we can make terrible hires, to ensure you're getting the right people in the right seats when you bring them on?
Yeah, and it all starts out with, people talk about having SOPs for every position. SOPs are very important from the front desk. I mean, we have a call sheet. The same questions are asked every single time. And those questions have been fine tuned throughout the years and the time to get the most information from my technicians before they go out there. That is number one. I mean, our training includes our back office staff. I mean, they're all in there. We all talk the same language, and I think people really around your office, if you're not talking the same language every single day and you're using different language, people just aren't going to get it. We all say the same thing. If we say a term here, it's a term that we use out in the field. We use it in the office as we use it in the field. That's a
Give
big
us an
one.
example. Let's talk about that.
Um, people are just a simpler example. We use the word mitigation here. Mitigation. People don't understand what the word mitigation really means. Now, if you were to ask my staff to break down the word mitigation, they can run through the equipment that is used. They can the time of arrival. I mean, it goes on and on. All right, processes are everything. I believe that they're everything to a restoration company. If you don't have processes that are the same every day, and it can get monotonous, don't get me wrong, but processes itself, when it comes down to how you use your software, job docs for one. Job docs has been a lifesaver just for the simple fact that it's all right there. And I get it. There are a lot of, and I've used them all. I've used the other softwares, the other platforms within that. And you guys are really great about working with us and building things for us that are suitable for our deal. So our processes, a lot of it revolves around there. Processes within the office, we still, at this point, like I said, we're going to our third year, we still use job docs, but we also, the technicians still do a paper packet on the job. There's a process that gets lost, but I tell you what, when it comes to billing and everything else, you have it down. It's a fail safe. I'll put it that way. You've got out there, people don't have internet or whatever, and you're forgetting some things on your software. We have a process to where a packet goes out, it's left on the job, and a packet comes in at billing. It is compared to job docs and then uploaded into job docs. So that's a big process of ours that I recommend. I'm old school. I've been doing this so long that I just recommend the old paper trail. For that portion of it. Everything else we've gone over to job docs on, so we don't have that. Sign in releases, release of liabilities, those kind of things. That's all done in the software. But that's a big process. I think that has helped us accumulate everything that we've done out on the job. We bill for it.
Yeah.
So there's a big one.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason it was even built to begin with, is because what we realized was, as a restoration company, we were letting things slip through the cracks, and we would do work and not even bill for it. So the reality was, I was paying my employees to go do something that I was never capturing the revenue on, and it was significant, right? Like, we were losing so much money, it was crazy. So we had to do something about it to navigate that step. And that's part of the reason we built it the way we did, in hopes of providing, again, we like helping, right? Providing a solution that helps guys like you be able to accomplish your job easier. Anytime it gets harder, I think we failed. If I do something on the software side that makes your life harder, or create some kind of process and utilizing it that makes it more difficult or more complicated, then that's a fail in my mind. I want you to be able to use it and use it effectively, and be able to serve your clients more effectively and with better tools, so that they're aware of what's happening and you're communicating with them and they're getting updates and all the things to make your life easier. That's what the goal is. And I'm happy that we're able to accommodate some of that for you when you're like, hey, what if we could do this? And we're like, hey, let's look at that. Let's see if we can make that work. And I love that. What other, I mean, you've already mentioned one of these things. It's like you're you're using a job doc system. You're doing, in some cases, some redundant type things to ensure consistency, but you're adamant that questions are answered the same way, that words are defined the same way, that people don't confuse remediation for mitigation, right? Things of that nature. And so I think that's significant. Um,
Well, one more thing to touch on that. I'll tell you what, when you have technicians that are out in the field, we run a lean crew. And when you have technicians out in the field and you're using some other platform, they don't want to they don't want to do it. They just don't. Job docs, and I know this isn't a thing about job docs, but I'll tell you what, it has made the life of my technicians out in the field 50% easier when it's time to do their paperwork. Really has. So kudos to you guys for that.
well,
Like I said, we've been through a lot of them, and this one, the technicians don't mind it at all. They're just
that's
like,
awesome. I love
it
it.
just goes through. So
Well,
thank you.
and I think the reality is we're in a world now, like you and I mean, we're both still, mid 20s, but we've got gray hair, right? I mean, we've done this for longer than we've been
Some
alive.
balding.
But the reality is the world has changed. Service industry has changed. And we're going to have to adapt and keep up with that. Like there's technology that exists that, I mean, like I tell my kids on a regular basis, right? You know, before the iPhone came out, I would have to know where I was going. And I'd have to be able to have a map if I didn't know exactly how to
Mama's
get
guy.
there. And one of the big things here, and we still have some around, is what's called Mapsco, and it's all gridded out and like blocks and stuff, and so you can follow some things to navigate where you need to get. But they don't recognize that. So my oldest is 17. So as a result, he is going to grow up in a world where all he has to do is put something in his phone and follow that. And if that ever goes down, like he's not going anywhere that he doesn't know. He's not going any place new. So it's an
Absolutely.
interesting environment. And I think the reality for us is like we're trying to incorporate some new AI technology into um, job docs, for instance. Like one of the things that I've brought up recently, like my oldest played hockey, and there was nothing really for this way, but my youngest plays baseball, and they have a product called Game Changer. And when you use Game Changer, literally somebody's just tracking the pitch. Okay, this pitch was a ball, this pitch was a strike, this pitch was a whatever, and you go through the game and you do this other stuff. At the end of the game, AI creates a narrative that tells the story of what has happened. The goal for me, and part of what we're trying to build out now, is your technicians clock in. You just received a phone call, and the system starts a summary that says Mrs. Smith called at 9:07 a.m. on Tuesday, and crews were dispatched to the project. They arrive because they check in, they task in from the system, however they're going to do it, and they arrived at such and such time. They found this because they did this work in the system, and just create this whole narrative that you don't have to do. And there's, I mean, like Matterport and DocuSketch and all these tools that are in place right now. Magic Plan is one of them, that really allows you to create a sketch from a camera. Like,
So
I mean,
crazy.
this doesn't even make sense to me. Like, what? But it doesn't, right? And we can import some of that stuff in. And like, there are people that are our age, and some a little older, that are going to rail against the technology that's available to them, and it's going to cost them their business at the end of the day. I think those who are embracing technology, and this is whether you're using job docs or using some other tool, kudos. Like you've got to do something to embrace the technology, and then you know hopefully, like Darren, I want you to learn to trust it fully and hope that everything's in job docs and we can make some different tools to be less redundant but give you something else. You don't have to have a paper trail. But I think embracing technology is significant. What do you think is the most important thing that you've done so far in the growth of your business?
Well, and going back to what you said, I was one of the biggest stubborn mules when it comes to technology. I fought it, I fought it, I fought it, hated Matterport, hated the other platforms, and just railed against them very much so. In the last 5 or 6 years, I have switched. And with that being said, you cannot operate a business at the level that we operate, and we're not that high up there, but without a software doing it, helping you. As for the AI is yesterday. It's the future. There's no way to get around it. And if that, I mean, it's in everything. It's in. I just bought a new truck the night before last, and it's got AI assistant on the dashboard. I mean, it's everywhere. So it's coming. I think that my advice to everybody is do your homework on them and find one that suits you. I have done, I have used, and I have gone through all of them. And we came to Job Docs, and then I met you guys out in Vegas at the trade show, and got to see more in depth of everything that's going on. And I'm just my advice to anybody else out there is find a software that definitely works for you and that is willing to curtail to the way you run your business. Some of them softwares are made for a streamline, and there's no budging. You're going to pick and choose at what you need, and there's really no changes.
Yeah.
That's why we're grateful here to you guys for doing that. You guys have never said I cannot do that. And here's the other thing. My paperwork is actually, your office has created my paperwork in Job Docs. So it is there. You guys went over and above and created my paperwork in Job Docs. That's the last bit of my old self is saying, oh, I still want to see it on paper.
I feel that, dude. I feel it.
It will go away.
For sure. I think it's interesting, like when you start navigating some of this in terms of, like you made some comments and my brain just kind of went blank there for a second. One of the things that we do is I think it's silly if I don't know how you run your business. And it's silly for me to assume that I'm building a software and this is the best way for you to do it. And this is how you have to do it. And that's part of what some of those other platforms have done. It's like, no, this is ideal practices. I'm like, I'm cowboy enough that I just don't like somebody telling me that. I'm doing things a lot differently. And we've found it with a lot of our clients. They're like, listen, I don't want you telling me exactly how I have to do something. We can suggest some things. We can talk about certain things. There are things that we can do, but you and I are going to run our businesses very differently for a lot of different reasons. Maybe it's how I'm going to staff something. Maybe I'm not going to have any estimators, and I'm going to only use my project managers to create the estimates based off of documentation I have in Job Docs. And somebody may have estimators. So the systems can't work exactly the same. So I can't make you follow some path that I think is great. So that was one of the things that really tried to work on. Now, one of the things I want to touch on, and I want to be respectful of your time, but you have some extra hobbies that you like to participate in. Some of it's on your back wall. I think it's hard for me to read those, but how has technology, maybe even Job Docs, if you want to talk about it, allowed you to have more work-life balance so that you can participate in some of the extra things?
Excellent. Yeah, as you see with the goofy hair and the earrings and everything, I play music. So it's it's a bunch of old guys out there trying to stay young. So that is what I do. And I'll tell you what, at any moment of the day, whether I'm in Hollywood or anywhere else doing what I love to do, I can open Job Docs and it's to the minute. So I know exactly what's going on every job. I mean, as it's happening pretty much as quick as it can be. So that again has been one heck of a lifesaver. I answer my phones after work. My emergency calls, they still go to me. And it's instantly at home. I throw it up. I can tell you exactly what happened on that job. If it's an hour later or it's the next day, I can give you a deal. The other big thing that we have here at 1M is updates are every job, every day. No ifs, ands, or buts. Our clients are updated whether they want them or not, and it's their choice whether we can do email or we can do text messages or phone calls. But every single job, our staff does not go home in the day until they've had that. And if it wasn't for Job Docs, the technicians put it in right when on the job, boom, you hit the email button, you email them through Job Docs, it is right here. So if they say, hey, well, I didn't get that yesterday, open up Job Docs, you did, it's at 9:41 a.m. You did have the update, I'm sorry, would you like me to send it again? But everything right there. And here's if I can go on just a little bit. The one thing about job docs is I handle some pretty clients that are they have a lot of and I don't want to say legal issues, but they do some high profile work. And we do the restoration portion for them when they are hired for these legal jobs.
Sure.
I have been, people have gone through all of my notes and we send them straight through Job Doc. We run the reports and everything is very clear and very easy. So I just got done with one where I submitted all my Job Docs reports and everything else. So we had compliments on how well our documentation actually was. And the documentation with our processes, the way we operate here and the way it's projected through the reports and Job Docs, we had compliments.
Challenges. What's the biggest challenge you've had in operating 1M?
Challenges has been finding the right people. I gotta say that challenges is finding the right people. In the beginning, it was capital. It was very much capital, keeping capital in here. You have a mindset, you have a business plan that you're executing and you're running forward. And that in a restoration business, starting it off is not cheap. A lot of money goes out and a lot of money goes out on a monthly basis of keeping this thing operating at where we want to be. We kind of, now we've come, even like I said, we're going into our third year. We're coming out to where we don't have to worry about that too much. If we had a hurricane in California, it might be an issue, but right now we're able to team up and get it. But I think one of the biggest things in this industry, because we are so slow to hire and quick to fire, it's good mentality, but finding the right person to fit your team. Our culture here is everything. I mean, as you can tell, everybody fits in with. We're pretty open with each other. Our culture is one of the best cultures that I've ever seen. It's still professional, but it's people are people here, and everybody's got a voice. But I think that the hardest thing is finding the right people. It really is, from the technician to everything.
What kind of tips can you give to anybody about how you've gone to find the people that you have, the ones that you've kept, the ones that you've enjoyed? Like, are there any tips or tricks here?
Well, there's the tips and tricks rely on the person who is actually doing the hiring. It really is. You know your culture, you know what you're looking for. If you got a sheet of paper that gives you some questions that came from AI or whatever, that they say that these are the great questions for somebody, I don't think so. I've done interviews for larger companies where I was to follow a script. I don't follow a script. I ask them not personal questions, as for just like you asked me, what do you like to do in your spare time? A lot of people don't know that. You can find a person by, what do you like to do in your spare time? And if they don't do anything, or they do it, they're dig deeper into the personal. An old boss taught me when I very first started this, out of every interview, he would leave the interview. He'd say, hold on a second. He would go out and he would look at the inside of their car.
Yep, sure.
And he says, because you're going to know exactly how a person is in real life, because that's their own personal space that nobody ever gets to see. You're going to know exactly what kind of person it is just by the interior of their car. So it's finding a niche. We don't have a revolving door here. Again, we run a lean team, but I don't ever believe in a revolving door. I don't just hire a technician because we need a technician to fill a truck. We start our hiring early. And if you know the wave and you can judge your hiring at that point, you know what time you have to hire a technician and what's coming. You really do. These last 2 years have been a little bit weird. Summertime is always our busiest time here. 100%. When summertime hits, you've got leaky pipes, you've got overflow toilets, you got more people using things at the household. So I've already started my campaign now to gear up for the summer. So I have approximately, probably another month to a month and a half for me to fill a new truck with 2 new technicians. But I started that over a month ago. So, but going through it, I mean, I've gone through 15 or 16 interviews now that they're just not the right ones.
Sure.
But it's finding out, judge it off of your culture. Don't judge it off of a piece of paper. That's just my advice. I judge people. I'm the one who's got to work with them every day, and so does all the rest of the team. I think judging on your personal is the best way to hire somebody.
I think so. For us, one of the things that we started doing is we actually talk about who we are. This is our culture. This is what we believe in. This is what we represent. This is the foundations and activities that we support. Here's why. And, you know, you need to buy in on this. If this is something that you're not okay with, then you're not going to be happy here, and we're not going to be happy with you here. So let's not even start this process.
Perfect.
And so, like, this is not a, hey, I think you're a great person, but if you have some aversion to who we are as an organization, then you need to be aware that this is who we are. Because the worst thing that I could possibly do, especially because I'm, again, part of my mentality of trying to do right by people is I don't want to take you from a job that you already have, that you're okay with, but you're not 100% happy with, to bring you into an environment that our culture loves, but you might not be happy with. It just doesn't make sense. So, because ultimately it's not going to last. So we didn't always do that, right? When we first started, there was a lot of like, we need people. Okay, we need to do this. And then we would hire people to do everything because I was doing everything at once. So then we would hire people that would do everything also so they could help take care of their projects. Then you realize that's stupid because you can't keep track of what's happening. And then that ultimately led to job docs and kind of dividing things up and making divisions. But I can appreciate that, man. It's like finding the right people. You mentioned something about following the wave, and summer is busier for you. Traditionally, that's the way it's worked. You've always worked in this area in California with other companies, or have you been other places as well? Okay, so
No,
that this is the way,
yeah,
regardless of the 3 years in.
absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
let's talk about that because I think that's intriguing too for people to understand, especially if they're going to get into the service industry. If they're going to be HVAC or plumber or restoration or whatever they're going to do, there's going to be that wave. How do you know what causes yours? How did you know to track it? What do you think someone that's looking at doing something needs to jump into and then be cautious about? Because if they hit and start at the right time and they catch all this big wave and they're like, oh, I'm going to buy 4 new trucks. And then it goes like this.
And it
We've seen
happens
that
more
happen
than
with guys. So talk
uh,
about that a little bit.
it's always going to be a wave because we're not guaranteed work. So like a plumber is always going to be guaranteed work. There's always a problem with plumbing. If you become a plumber, you're a busy person regardless. With restoration, it's tough. So when you start calculating numbers and finding out, even if you don't have the experience, you need to calculate, and you may not have it in the beginning. You may be scared for those first couple of years, but you're going to ride the wave. There's no way to get around that wave. So 1M, 85% of our business is property management and HOA. So having that baseline, but a lot of people want to sink their money into TPA work and things like that at 100%. Here in California, as you guys know, it turned out to be faulty for a lot of bigger companies. So don't limit yourself into one area. We know that property management is always going to be busy. That's how we've stayed this busy. You have your Google ads and those things, but they kind of go with the wave. People aren't going to call you if it's that around that time. Judging the wave these last 2 years has been rough because winter has been busier than summertime. Not sure why. It hadn't been that for 5 years before that I can calculate. So it is knowing your numbers right from the start. Don't just get into this, spend a bunch of money, and then think it's going to all pay off because that will get you out. I consult for 3 other restoration companies that are newer right now and getting them from the start going forward. And it's the same way. So I've got them on this and they're like, yeah, they're thriving. They're thriving. But it's still scary riding that wave. I don't know how you guys have it back east if you do cat work and those kind of things. But I guess my moral to that part of the story is don't sink your stuff into one area. We do the property management and we've got great clients, love our clients, and that keeps us busy. So our wave may not be as big as everybody else's. We don't really have plumbers. We don't really have roofers. We choose to keep it on a different
Yeah.
path.
So the property management companies that you deal with, because of where you're located, are these property management for somebody's primary residence, like apartment complexes, townhomes, or are they resort properties that are cyclical in occupancy?
Really, it is the single family, the condos, the townhomes, the apartments. We do have some commercial property management, but you can't really base too much on them. They're hit or miss when it goes. I mean, if you're some of the bigger companies and you're in different locations, you probably could ride that one out a little bit further. But for us, it's more of the single family, the investment properties, those kind of things. We do some vacation homes as we're in California. We do have some vacation short term rentals. They keep us busy. But and that's a breed of that's a whole breed of its own, getting into short term rentals. They want you in and they want you out, but it's definitely yeah. Most of ours is just apartments and condos.
I wondered because I know some of our Florida clients and some of my buddies in the restoration space, like in Florida, they do a lot of like this is somebody's vacation home, and so nobody's occupied this thing. In some cases, they do rent them out occasionally, but in some level, they they've been gone to Detroit for however many months, and now it's getting nasty in Detroit. They come down and they want to winter in Florida, and suddenly they show up and the house is flooded and has been flooding for who knows how long and just a wreck. So I didn't know if you were running into a lot of that with the property managements that you were dealing with, or if it was something different. But
not too much. We're big here on Airbnb, those kind of things. So we don't have a lot of properties that sit too much. We do get those sometimes, and that's a big remediation job.
Yeah, that's a bigger project at the time. Well, so we're at almost 40 minutes right now, and I want to respect your time. What is one last bit of advice that you would want to give to an aspiring entrepreneur about whatever it is you think that they need to hear from you?
I would say love what you do. Love what you do. There's so many tools out there. Make sure that you are researching those tools because there are plenty of things that will help you along. The other thing that I say is don't think you're going to be a millionaire overnight owning a restoration company. It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. But it's not that it can't happen. It's how you're going to do it. Take it slow and take it easy. The money will come. Don't try to rush it, because when you start rushing it, you start cutting some corners, and dismoral things and things like that can happen in this industry. I mean, I have 2 doors down, I have another restoration company that's right by me. There's a restoration company, I like to say, on every corner. You've got carpet cleaners that are restoration contractors. You've got plumbers that are restoration contractors. Do it your way. Do it how you believe, and don't be like anybody else. Get a brand, create your brand that you believe in 100%. That way, when that wave comes, you believe in it wholeheartedly. Pass or fail, you have to believe in what you do. And every day here, we believe in what we do, and we sleep well at night. Just believe in yourself. And it's a scary industry. It really is.
Yeah,
but it's a beautiful one if you can go ahead and ride it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's well said, right? It's, restoration's unique in how it is addressed. Like you were talking about plumbers, this is not an opportunity for you to just, people don't really shop restoration all that much typically, right? Because they're not, well, I want to find out what the best deal on this car is, the best deal on my hot tub is, or the best deal, on my HVAC that I'd like to talk about getting replaced. It's a crisis, and the crisis has to be addressed right now.
Correct.
And they have to be aware. So you've got to, be prepared, do your job, do it well, make sure they know that you're ready for them, make sure they know you're capable, treat people right, do the right thing by others. And I think that's significant in all of that.
It really is.
And I applaud what you've done so far, Darren. I think you guys have done a great job.
And thank you, sir.
I'm available if you need me for anything, and our team.
You guys have been
really
great.
Appreciate you jumping on and spending a little bit of time with me and talking about this. And hopefully there's some value that, others can pull out of this podcast in the future and see what you're talking about and get some growth on their own as a result.
I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you for allowing me to be a guest.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you next time.